Good for like a half hour, 25 minutes?
That's fine. Perfect. All right, we're
Cool, man.
good.
So we're live. We're loading up on. Let me just give LinkedIn a minute to load up here. We're going to make sure we're good. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us as I work through some technical difficulties on my side. You know, it is a live show, so anything goes here. We're going to give it 1 minute, and then I'm going to do a proper intro of my guest. What's going on down in South Florida, my man? While we kind of load up here, give me a quick.
Yeah.
Check. Are people taking this seriously, man? Because I've heard some mixed signals, man, out of your state.
So I'm down in South Florida. I'm in the Miami Beach area. I work in South Broward, Hollywood area, Pembroke Pines. So my name is Dr. Brian Dooreck, by the way. I'm a gastroenterologist. If you didn't get that yet, and Adam will do his spiel. But the reality is, at my hospital, and I'm in one of the major system in South Broward. Our COVID-19 tent is quiet. They're actually going to break it down and move it to the back of the hospital.
Wow.
To reopen up the outpatient for people to do elective procedures. So is it quiet? Yes. Have we seen surges in the overwhelming morbidity and death like New York has seen and other inner cities? Not yet, not down here. My hospital system was like 2 weeks ago. I think we had 60 people on a ventilator, and then within a week it was 120. So there was a doubling time, about a week. If you ask me, are things quieted down or things? Yes, but the concern is how complacent the people get. So right. The Miami-Dade County would say, okay, we're opening the parks, we're opening the streets, we're opening, venues. Are people going to be smart and say, I'm going to go to the beach, I'm going to stay with my immediate family, I'll stay with my close pocket? Or do they congregate with 30 people deep like they were doing up in Jacksonville? And that's where the stupidity is.
Right.
Because I posted yesterday on LinkedIn, you don't need to be a doctor to have common sense.
No, it doesn't make you a doctor.
So it's like, yes, they may open up and relax restrictions. Does it mean you need to be panicking and going exercising and running with a face mask that doesn't protect you anyway? No. I mean, be wise. But if you're going to go into a store and you want to buy some spinach and there's two people there, well, give them 2 minutes and let people, keep space.
It's common sense. There's a lack of common sense happening out there, and people just need to, just because you hit the nail on the head, just because something's open or the state or the government, decides to open something, doesn't mean just run to the beach. But just be mindful and give some space. So let's kick this thing off. Welcome. It is, I think it's Wednesday. Right? I think it's Wednesday. Yeah. It could be Tuesday. It could be a Saturday.
Wednesday.
So it's not a Saturday because my kid had class work this morning, so I know it's not a weekend, but all the days are blending together. It is the 22nd day of April in the year 2020. We're still deep in this crisis, everybody. We're still getting there. Different parts of the country are affected. We talked about something interesting, which is the saturation, right? Why New York City is greater affected than other parts, of the country and certain other parts of the world. But with me, I'd like to welcome my guest today, Dr. Brian Dooreck from down in South Florida, someone that I respect and admire on a few different levels, and we'll talk professionally first, and we'll talk a little bit about what he's doing on LinkedIn a little bit later. But today I want to focus, and we'll call it gut health, something that a gut check with Dr. D. We're gonna coin that one. But Dr. D, if you won't mind just giving us a quick overview of your expertise and what you specialize in.
I mean, look, I'm like everyone else. I'm a man, a husband, I got kids, I got family, but I've also studied and chose to go into medicine, and I chose a field of gastroenterology. And that's a field of GI and liver diseases. So my training, honestly, from when I went to college in Stony Brook University in New York till I finished my GI training at University of Miami in 2005, there was about 17 years between hitting college and finishing my fellowship before I joined practice. So I joined practice in 2005 and been in private practice since. And my education took me through New York City, and I was in Tel Aviv, and I was in Boston and Cambridge, and down in Miami is where I finished up. So it's pretty intense when I look back at the amount of years I invested. And I'll tell you why I went into GI in a few minutes. And then after that, I've been in practice for 15 years. So when I took that cumulative amount of years between studying, training, and now clinically practicing and seeing patients, I said, wow, this is really a lot of value. And if I could offer on social media, specifically LinkedIn, where I theoretically hope there's a higher bandwidth of viewing audience, a few tips and tricks of the things I deal with day in, day out, the things patients come to see me for, and I speak about all the time, heartburn, constipation, gas, bloating, colon cancer screening. If I could throw someone a few ideas and to improve their quality of life without a co-payment, without waiting to see me in the waiting room for an hour, without having to book an appointment 3 weeks down the line.
Putting straight on the system.
Yeah, the reality is when I was on social media over the last few years, building my local practice here, it gives me a certain reach, 5 miles, 10 miles. I'll have people come down from Palm Beach, they'll drive up from Miami. But the broad reach of going on to LinkedIn or going on and dropping some information on bloating, on constipation, on colon cancer screening, I'm reaching people around the world now.
That's awesome.
Right? And it's free, valuable information that's improving people's quality of life that otherwise may not seek it, may not be aware of it, may blow it off. We're young, we feel healthy. What do I got to worry about? Well, you got to worry about stuff, believe me.
Yeah, and there's not many people doing what you do on LinkedIn, and you have a voice and it's being heard. But you also present it in a way, pun intended, that's very digestible, right? It's everyday. It's everyday language, right? You're not getting too technical. But what I also admire about your content is that you practice what you preach. Like, I love that you show what you're eating for lunch. I love that you talk about how you're feeling and all that, because people could see it. And it's absolutely real, and you're doing a great job there. So the first thing I kind of want to dig into a little bit, I mean, you touched on what you're seeing down in South Florida, certainly different than everywhere else. But from a digestive and GI and dietary nutritional standpoint, are there things that we could do to fortify our immune system by what we eat and how we take care of our gut?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that I'm going to step back one point. I think it's an interesting point. Why I chose GI. It's a question.
Yeah, let's get into that. I say that with every doctor. I'm like, how did you choose OBGYN, or how did you choose a certain specialty? Like, what got you there?
It all ties into your question. It's because it's something I can relate to. And, when you study the heart and the cardiovascular system, or the kidneys and the lungs, they're very mathematically with electrolytes and pressures and valves and gradients, and it's very complicated for me. And I was like, GI, yes, it has electrolytes and details and minute details, but it was like, man, I had diarrhea. I've had stomach cramps. I know what it's like.
We've all had it.
Yeah. And if someone has colitis, like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, or these chronic lifelong diseases, it could really be debilitating to someone's quality of life socially on a Saturday night, dating. If you're like having urgency and got to run to the bathroom because you're
bad news.
Food. So I felt that I can improve someone's quality of life by doing that and helping them get on with their life. That's where my value is. People can walk around with heart disease and lung disease and kidney disease, and they look fine. You couldn't tell that they have heart failure, that their valves aren't working, that their kidneys are dysfunctional, unless they're very, very advanced. But if someone has urgency and diarrhea and bloating and they're nauseous, you're going to see it on their face, and it really affects their day-to-day.
It's immediate.
Yeah, so that was why I went into it. So when you talk about now, the question is, what do we do to improve our immune systems, especially now? I've been actually dropping the line now more than ever. Eat smart, eat healthy, balance portion control, keep nutrition simple now more than ever, because it's very simple. There's no magic recipe for COVID-19 to protect yourself. On day one, when reality hit, for me in the same, what did I do? I started sleeping more. I rested more. I forced myself to stay in bed. I made sure I kept moving and exercising. I made conscious choice to make sure I kept eating the healthy foods and the diet that I want to continue to eat. That I didn't use this as an excuse to break routine. I kept structure. I'm in my office today at 8:15 still, trying to hold the structure, even though I have no procedures and I haven't had for a week. My head is spun about the financial realities and the fiscal realities of my own personal life, of my business, of my retirement portfolio, of my kids' college. I mean, all that same shit's going on in my head and my business and my life with everyone else. So what do you got to do to keep that grounded? I know where I pull from, and I don't get on LinkedIn and say I'm going to talk about gratitude, and I don't preach all the stuff I work on in my personal life, because my space is like colon cancer screening, nutrition. I'll dabble in some of the other stuff, but I really kind of stay in my lane. But rest more than ever, hydrate more than ever, exercise at home, work out on your driveway, keep your body moving. Exactly. Choose the right foods. Don't sugar binge. Don't sit on the couch and eat Cheetos all day. And I think now, though, when I say the rest, I think that's less needed now because I think we're getting into this new norm. We're understanding the new norms. So you're going to create a routine at home. You mentioned kids homeschooling. Alarms got to go off in the morning. Monday to Friday. It's a work day, school day, home. Saturday, Sunday, those are weekends. So you don't want a 7-day week. You are like, what day is today? We're all in that mindset. I'm in the same thing. But we got to stick to structure. It keeps the stress down. The stress is down. The hormones, the cortisol is down. Your immune system is stronger. That's the best thing you can do.
That's great advice. And I want to go back to your actual business, and let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, I understand that across the country, elective surgeries in most cases are down, but let's talk about emergency procedures. You still have clients that need your attention. You have people that are still going through some serious issues. How are you attending to your patients? Are you doing telemed when you can? But I know there's also times when you got to get up in that ass, right? You got to get up in there. I'm going to quote a little Curb Your Enthusiasm. You got to get in there and physically see a patient. How are you doing that these days?
So we're seeing patients in the office, and we're using social distancing. And I could show you, we have a chair over here, and then I have a computer station. You can see it over here somewhere. Let's see if the computers.
You got it. Yep.
So it's like we have rooms, and we practice the same precautions as you would in any business. Patients are wearing masks. I'll wear a mask. We have gloves and sanitizer. The volume's less. We're not having a crowded waiting room. Procedures, we don't do them in our endoscopy center, which is one of the benefits of our practice, private endoscopy. But the governor, at least in our state and most states, have froze that. And for now, but probably within 2-3 weeks, we'll be up and running. I've done procedures.
But he opened beaches. But your governor opened the beaches. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, open the beaches. I mean, I think that we're hoping that by mid-May we're going to be doing. I'm seeing patients. I'm booking procedures. But if there's an emergency and we have a case today, we'll do it in the hospital. My hospital is very well prepared, take the precautions, but there's a risk. There's a risk to me walking in the hospital to a patient's room. So when I'm called about I got a 92-year-old from the nursing home who was having some diarrhea, I'm like, you really don't want me walking in that room unless I really need to. So it's a triage thing. We're really doing our best. We're adapting. We're taking care of people. Our doors are open, 5 days a week. We're on call 7 days a week. We're taking phone calls. I'm not doing telemedicine by choice. That's our decision in our practice. A lot of practices are doing it. It's a calculated decision that we feel for what we do. We're doing procedure-based medicine anyway. Again, a lot of practices with internal medicine are doing it. They're on the phone nonstop. I see an end to this period. I don't see this as going on ever. Yeah, for what I'm doing. So there's some role,
Yeah, I mean, the news is scary, though. I mean, they're talking about today, one of the headlines is calling a big comeback. I mean, we're flattening the curve. We're doing what we need to do. The end is in sight. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. But then they're talking about it coming back, almost twice as strong with the flu season in November. So, hopefully we're learning now of what we could do. So if and when it comes back, we are prepared. We have the testing and everything. The part that scares me, Doc, is the asymptomatic issues, right? Like to your point, you could feel fine. You could have no symptoms. You could have no fever. I don't know if you've done the antibody test on yourself or had that done yet or anything, but you could walk in and these are very susceptible patients, especially in South Florida, right? With an aging population, a lot of retirees. That's scary to me. I mean, my parents are in West Palm, they're 70 years old. I mean, they're in that bracket. It's, that's scary. So are we getting to that point where hopefully we've done enough testing in the state? Like where do you feel do you feel comfortable?
I think that I don't think there's anywhere near the amount of testing that's needed. I think in any state, I think that's kind of a national conversation that's there, and it's neither here nor there now. We are where we are. I think the reality is in terms of where I'm at, and when I look at things, if we tested everyone, and if you really know how many people actually had this virus, your numbers of morbidity, which is like really severe illness, or mortality, which is death, would be really, really small. Because suddenly you're going to start testing everyone. You're going to have this pool. You're like, oh my God, we had 3 million more people that had this virus. Yeah. Yet the same amount of people we know have died from it, and the same amount of people we know are ventilated. Just that number is going to get smaller and smaller because the amount of water in the pools will be so much more. Yep. Doesn't minimize it. I'm 49. I've been through a lot of flu seasons. Been through a lot of viruses in my life. I've survived most of them. For now, knock on wood. Doesn't mean I can't get sick from COVID-19 or a regular flu and die from it. We've had 30-year-old in my hospital 2 weeks ago, and this thing started died from it. I mean, so it's real, but people die from the flu every year. If you look at the numbers, I think from the 17-18 season, it was 40, 50, 60,000, 80,000 a couple of years ago. I mean, flu is real serious shit. I mean, people die from it. And I don't want to say minimize it, but we don't talk about it. We don't shut our businesses. We don't not travel. We don't. So
is that, I mean, I'm not getting political here, but is that kind of the rub on it when people are saying, hey, we're risking, putting our economy, I mean, like literally crashing our economy for numbers that, if you compare it to the flu, I mean, people have a fair case on that. But on the other side, it's like, hey, there's a lot we could do to stop the spread from people from dying.
I think
is it as contagious?
I said yesterday in my little spiel on LinkedIn, I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not an infectious disease expert, and I don't work for the CDC. Straight up, nor the WHO. But I do know common sense. And I think common sense is that the concern here was the surge. A lot of people really sick, really quick at the same time. And that would just overwhelm the hospital systems. And if you're suddenly a healthy person with a little asthma and you get COVID-19 and we don't know, and he catches you and you need a ventilator and there's no ventilators.
Yeah,
in Europe, they're triaging who goes on the ventilator to breathe and who dies.
It's scary.
The scary part of it. So I don't think it's that the virus, is more serious or less serious than the flu. Yes, maybe more contagious. I think it was more like this boom, the shotgun of this overwhelming pandemic, this kind of rapid tsunami of a viral illness. How would the country, manage it? Some countries, I think like Finland, and other countries just said, go on with your life.
Well, they're going with the herd immunization idea also, the herd theory.
Things are so big in this country. The magnitude of everything is so insane. I can't even comprehend. I mean, stimulus packages, $320 billion. This one I'm reading about. I mean, and they're not even touching this thing. I mean, it's beyond me. I mean, it's beyond me. So I think that the concern is the surge of illness at one time in pockets that will overwhelm the healthcare system. And we're just not in a society where we're ready to say, you live, you die. Just not there. So I think that's the concern. So I'm not going to get into the politics of it. I think now it's just common sense that when we start opening up the country, we start opening up our businesses and the world around us, just do it smartly, adapt.
Yeah, I agree also. So I want to get back into your specialty a little bit, and something that I've been trying to do. And I have two questions for you, for me specifically. Sure. We'll call this telemedicine. I have absolutely horrible seasonal allergies, right? I am literally stuffed up from late February through literally June 1st. And I've done the over-the-counter allergy stuff. I've tried some homeopathic things. And literally there's been times that I'm not even trying to make a joke of this, where I've thought that I've had some symptoms, and I literally felt like I've had corona multiple times and everything. But one of the things that's actually helping me is nutrition. And the other thing that I do is I take a daily vitamins. And I wanted to kind of get your take if you're on vitamins. So I go with a program called Persona. Have you heard of these?
No, I heard the name Persona. I personally use Life Extension. I think they're based in Florida. It's a company I use. I mean, there's Solgar was a company I used for many years. I'm not endorsed by anyone. I don't have a vested interest. I don't sell vitamins. I don't market products. I just tell you that's what works for me. I use Life Extension.
And I'd love to get your take on vitamins. So in my daily vitamin, I take it daily. There's apple pectin. There's a probiotic, foundational multivitamin. There's a heart support. There's an omega-3, and then there's 1,000 milligrams, I guess, of vitamin D. Is there anything else I should add to this regimen to further? I'm 41 years old. I have had, because I have colon cancer, prostate cancer in my family, and I've had polyps before, and some other issues. Okay. I've had 3 colonoscopies.
All right.
Is there anything else that I should kind of put into my nutrition routine as far as supplements? Sorry, my supplement routine to kind of help me out there?
Well, I mean, for me, I do take some of those vitamins, and I take some other regimens. I got a family history of Alzheimer's. My mom's 74, and she's, has Alzheimer's already, and her mother had it. So I think about what can I do for memory health. I think vitamins are very individualized. I think you need to know what you're taking, the quality of what you're taking, and what your expected results and outcomes are. So we over vitaminize, no doubt. I mean, we're popping stuff that's probably a waste of money. And
I was about to say, is it there like too much? Like your body could only absorb and take a certain amount of a vitamin or supplement?
Correct. And so I think that, a good multivitamin makes sense, but if you're eating a good balanced meal and diets and you're eating what you need to eat, you're probably going to get what you need from the dietary sources. If you're on a plant-based diet, which I predominantly am on myself, I do eat some fish sometimes, I do eat some eggs, but predominantly plant-based, the omega-3 is important. There's certain things, certain vitamins like B12. I can give you some links about some of the deficiencies and things people may experience with a plant-based diet. If you're doing intermittent fasting, which I'm not a big fan of myself.
That was one of my questions. We'll get to that too, yeah.
I mean, it's again, are you getting in enough nutrients, essential vitamins and minerals in your diet that warrants you not to be taking a supplementation? Are you wrong taking vitamin D? Are you wrong taking omega-3? Are you wrong taking a multivitamin? Absolutely not. I'm taking omega-3. I take vitamin D. I take a multivitamin. I take also biocurcumin. I take things like turmeric, supplements. I take memory protect. I'm doing things that are working for me. Do they work? Are they the panacea? Are they probably not.
How do you know? Like, how do you know the effect? I mean, I've been on this regimen for 90 days. I think I'm going into month 4 right now. Like, how do you really know with vitamins? Like, is there, unless you're getting tested, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think you really know. And you can pay some very, profitable labs to run extensive testing. The truth is I do annual blood work. I do the men's health panel from Life Extension. I pull the labs from them. I run it through Questa LabCorp with my insurance. I check, certain things like my iron level and make sure there's no anemia and basic labs. I also do a heavy metal screen. Tony Robbins, who I pull from, talks about he was, I think he had arsenic poisoning from probably eating, or mercury poisoning from eating so much tuna, but he's such an extreme guy. He probably was eating tuna like by the pound every day. Or
off the boat, like that fresh giant Japanese tuna.
whatever. I'm just saying is, so I'll do that. Obviously very individualized. I always tell people, speak to your own doctor, make decisions with your doctor that are right for you. Everyone's individualized. You're talking about polyps, you're 40 something, it's again, different story, family history. So you got to really speak to your doctor about what works for you in your life. I think, vitamins have a role, but I think at the end of the day, eating balanced meals, choosing good portions of carbs and fats, staying away from processed foods, limiting the amount of white sugar, white flour, limiting the amount of food that comes in a bag. Obviously you can get good food in a bag. I get peas and greens in a bag, so I'm not talking about like Cheetos, what I mean?
Nah, we stay away from that kind of stuff. But what about alcohol? I mean, the amount of alcohol consumption right now in America is absolutely off the chart. I mean, I have a client who's in the wine business, and they are already at this point of the year over goals and over projections, over budget, all that kind of stuff too. And we're only in the middle of April. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And I have 2 fears here. One, the damage that people are going to do to their livers and their bodies, and potentially alcoholism, and then the social implications too, right? Like of drinking too. If people are going to drink, I mean, how do you balance that from a gut health perspective? Because I'll give you, I drink, I'm a whiskey guy, and I love whiskey so much, but there's certain times whiskey destroys my stomach. Like I will literally have, we'll put it this way, the next day is not so good from a stomach perspective. Is there anything I can take while I'm drinking to kind of counterbalance it a little bit? I'm asking for the cheat code here, Doc. I need the cheat code.
For me, I rarely tell people don't drink. I tell people, live your life, live what we're in balance. So I don't drink much alcohol myself. I think alcohol, adds a lot of calories, adds a lot of sugar. Having a glass of red wine, I'll have some wine here and there, but again, it's adding a lot of carbohydrate and sugar to your diet. But from a balance standpoint, moderation. Live life in moderation. There's no, I don't think there's any trick or tip what to take with your whiskey so you don't feel it. Take it with food, but it's like, I'm not going to tell anyone live an extreme. I'm going to tell you, live a life of balance. Everything's okay in moderation to a point. Why are people running to alcohol these days? Why is that number spiking up? It's because people are trying to change their state. People trying to change their headspace.
Distraction. They're trying to be distracted to have a timeout.
They're trying to physiologically change where they are. They're trying to change their physical state, their biophysiology, their mental state because of what alcohol does or drugs do to them, versus dealing head on with the hard work that we got to face. Because right now is a time when the hard work is there more than anything, right? And the hard work is we got to face the reality that, my business is in the shit. No pun intended here.
But yeah, if your business is in the shit, you're probably doing all right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like my marriage is under strain. My kids are jumping off the walls.
100%.
The anxiety is like through the roof because the anxiety is all about worry about the future. Usually, we're not anxious so much about the past. We're anxious about the future, the untold story of what never comes to fruition anyway. Our minds are running. What's going to be? They're going to foreclose my house. They're going to take away my business. My wife's going to leave me. This and that, whatever it is, the stories start running.
Right.
That's the anxiety. So all those things are there. So what do we do, or are people doing to try to mask it and not address it? Is they're running alcohol, whatever, drugs, and again, that's not the solution. That's where the hard work. That's where the hard work comes in now more than ever. You got to face that stuff head on.
Are you anticipating once folks are going to come back to you, do you anticipate that folks are going to come back with some new problems that you haven't seen, like the average person having, from stuffing their faces, being sedimentary, like not moving, like with their gut, like not processing? Like, are you anticipating a lot more patients coming through the door with more problems?
We have a lot of patients that aren't coming to the doctor or not compliant to their ongoing treatment or follow up on things that they need. So things are going to probably spin out of hand a little bit. Not going to have the medications, or not going to be following up and making adjustments. I think people's anxiety levels going to be through the roof, and that's going to affect their gut health. Emotions, the gut-brain axis is very well documented. We know that foods affect mental state, depression, anxiety, headspace. We know that the neuroenteroreceptors that are on the gut are directly tied into the brain. So the foods you're eating and the amount of processed foods could easily affect your headspace in terms of depression and anxiety. So I think that people's mental states can affect their gut state and vice versa.
It's interesting too, because I know for me, when I'm stressed out and I have anxiety, it goes either one of two ways. Either I can't go to the bathroom or I can't stop going to the bathroom. Yeah. And we're talking about number two here, people, right? Yeah. Like it's either you clamp up or you open up, right? Depending on how it is. One more kind of expertise question, and then I'll wrap this up with you. I want to touch back on intermittent fasting and get your perspective on it. I found personally some success. My wife does it. And what we like to do is we'll have dinner at a normal time, 6:30, 7 o'clock, and maybe have a little dessert afterwards, a little fruit or something. And then we will skip breakfast. And then our first meal of the day, I'll have coffee in the morning, but my first meal of the day will be around 1 o'clock. Okay. That's the maximum amount of time. And it works out well for me. I do that 3 or 4 days a week. I find it. And then when I do have the breakfast, I really try to be nutritious and really mindful about what I'm eating. I'm not eating, chocolate frosted flakes or anything like that. But what's your opinion on intermittent fasting as far as, maintaining weight loss and health?
Yeah, listen, everyone's got to do what works for them. I personally don't live that way. I choose not to follow that diet myself. A lot of famous stars have, like Hugh Jackman and Jimmy Kimmel, and everyone's, got really big on it. Actually, I think I wrote a 2-part series in my blog on it. Very simple, basic. I'll pull the link for you and you can post it below.
Absolutely.
I think the big takeaway is if you're going to do intermittent fasting, whether the 5-2 or the 16-9 or whatever regimen, whether it's every other day or 4 days a week, it's what are you doing in that time when you are eating? What are you consuming during that window of consumption? Are you over-consuming? Are you choosing the right foods? Are you following balance and portion control? Or are you steering to, I just fasted, I'm going to reward myself? And that's
going to stuff my face with 12 pancakes.
Exactly. So it's like, what are you doing during that time? For me, what's my breakfast today? So this is my breakfast. I got up early, did my thing. I had 2 cups of coffee and I put oat milk. So I had instant coffee and I use oat milk as the creamer. So it's.
Are you off dairy?
Not by choice. I was using almond milk for a while. And I'm using oat milk if I have the option to. It's creamier. At work, I drink black coffee only now. So for breakfast, what I had a bag of snap peas, I had an Orgain plant-based protein drink, and I had a banana as a carb. So I had a fruit as a carb, had some greens, and I had some protein. A lot of times I'll take a NutriBullet, I'll just put spinach, celery, mint, all greens, water, some plant-based protein, a banana as a carb, spin it up, drink it. So intermittent fasting works fine. If you're having a glass of spinach, water, plant-based protein, and a healthy carb,
you're doing all right.
You're doing all right. You know, and again,
I love it, man.
And for me, that what's worked for me. I fuel my tank. I'm eating 5 times a day, but I've lost, a year ago, I took off about 15 pounds. I kind of kept it off and stayed lean since. But again, it's, choice and structure, how I'm doing it.
Good for you, Doc. I certainly have time today, and I'm asking every guest that comes on the show. Let's get a little personal, if you don't mind. I'd love if you could share with us a professional silver lining and a personal silver lining that you've experienced over the last, we'll call it 6 weeks or so.
Tell me what you mean by silver lining before I disclose my true secrets. What do you mean by, what's the silver lining?
Silver lining is something great that has come out of this where maybe you didn't expect it.
Okay. So I'll have to say that in terms of my involvement in social media and what I've been doing, one thing that has evolved that wasn't a part of my plan is I started working with people outside of my scope as a doctor, outside of my scope as a clinical practitioner, remotely in terms of helping them find balance in their life and kind of implementing the things I'm doing in my life in a very select way. I don't very select who I do this with, and I do with very few people at a time because but I plug in with a few people every day where I'm connecting with them every day. We're sharing how we're eating, exercising, how we're doing with our headspace, and having that direct connection with people on a one-on-one, every day of the week, having a call every weekend is something that's been very rewarding because seeing patients once every month, once every 3 months is good. Posting stuff and people commenting is good. But when I'm seeing people's obstacles and seeing their wins and victories and helping them go through it, not because I'm some I got it all together, my life's perfect. No, I've been fucking working my ass off.
Yeah, you put in the work.
I'm putting the work in, still doing the work, but working with people, again, very selectively, and it's something I really don't even advertise or talk about. And I have an application. I'm very strict on what I do and who I do it with. It's very rewarding because impacting someone's life and changing someone's life and helping someone improve their life is what it's all about. Muhammad Ali's quote, service to others is the rent we pay here for our time on earth, resonates with me. Started my nonprofit, was driven around that quote. So giving, serving, sharing, helping others is the silver lining of all this. The work I'm doing on myself, on my personal life, and have been over the last few years in terms of myself, my marriage, my relationship with my kids, relationship with myself, like the inner self, like the childhood self, the way we define who we are. When you start looking deep into that stuff, being okay to be in touch with feelings, being
vulnerable,
being okay to say, listen, I'm a big fan of group therapy, of men's group therapy, of sitting in a room with you guys. You and I, when I connected with you the first time, I
talked about the men's work.
Talked about that, and doing that stuff and doing the work. So
I did it Sunday night. I put in the work. We had a men's circle, virtual men's circle Sunday night. Yeah.
So, I did a men's group down here in Miami Beach. We dissolved. We were about to start up. We didn't. For me, it was the most empowering thing to be in a room with 5 guys and see that you're not alone, because we're all dealing with the same stories, the same stresses, the same anguish on different levels and different stories that come there. But it's really empowering to know you're not alone. So for me, that's, those are the silver linings that have come out in my own personal life, where I am working with people online, sharing online, and, hopefully just, improving people's quality of life by just sharing where I'm at.
I love it. And definitely keep doing what you're doing, man. You're adding value, right? I mean, that's what you do. And I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your wealth of information. Where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more, Doc?
Yeah, look, I post once a day, but my focus is LinkedIn because like I really hope to keep the bandwidth on LinkedIn at a certain level above other social media platforms. Not to bash them, but I'm looking for that type of engagement with people. I'm looking to expand. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You know, I have links to my blog there. So I have a blog on my medical practice site. I post very simple, easy 2-minute reads. I'll put links on PDFs to diets and other information there. I mean, I'm just sharing free information. My blog is like kind of a good reset page. Lots of stuff there. You know, in terms of the executive health coaching I do, you can find it on LinkedIn. But again, I'm not really about advertising that. That's something I do selectively with certain.
We'll share it all. We'll share it all.
You know, it's really not pull from my website, pull from my blog, pull from my diets, pull from me. Actually, you know what? I have on my LinkedIn profile a way you can click, just speak to Dr. Dooreck. So if you want to reach out to me, any one of my connections wants to get on the phone with me, and I'll make 5 minutes for you. Believe me.
Oh, he's good. He does. He's great.
I'm not so high on the horse. I can't make 5 minutes for someone to jump on a call when I'm driving home, and I'll do that. So you can click that, connect with me. If you have a question, I'll answer it the best I can. And I hope I add value to anyone's life who reaches out. And that's all I ask you to do is do the same and give back.
Awesome. Dr. Dooreck, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. Certainly appreciate it. And everyone watching, I'll be back in about 45 minutes. I'm going to take a quick lunch break, and we have a live podcast recording coming up with Sarah Sheehan. So check us out back at 2:00. We'll be back on the same channel. Dr. D, take care. Be safe. Wash your hands. Thank you for joining us today. Everyone, we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks.
Eat smart and healthy, man. Be smart, and this will pass.